Yes, I can help with Joshua Selman's sermons. Apostle Joshua Selman is a Nigerian Christian minister, teacher, and founder of Koinonia. His sermons are widely known for their depth, strong scriptural foundations, and emphasis on spiritual growth, intimacy with God, destiny, leadership, and the ministry of the Holy Spirit. Beloved, today is Tuesday, 9th December, 2025, and you must understand that days are not ordinary. Every day carries a voice, and every day waits for instruction. A silent believer is a defeated believer. If you do not speak into your Tuesday, the adversary will. So lift your spirit, because this day is not permitted to wander without direction. Every day carries a spiritual atmosphere, and your voice determines its outcome. This truth is deeper than motivation. It is a spiritual law that governs results in the realm of men. When you wake up in the morning, you are not just stepping into another 24 hours. You are stepping into a system loaded with possibilities, challenges, unseen battles, opportunities, and prophetic moments waiting for activation. A day is like raw material placed in your hands. And what you become by nightfall is largely influenced by the words you sow into it at dawn. Nothing in the spirit remains neutral. If you do not activate the atmosphere of a day, something else will. If you do not speak order, chaos will fill the vacuum. If you do not speak alignment, distractions will rise. Life was designed to respond to voices. Creation is voice activated. The entire universe is wired to obey sound. That is why silence is dangerous for a believer. Every day has ears. Every hour listens. The morning is not just a time, it is a gate. Gates are access points where realities are permitted or denied. When you speak into your day, you are standing at that gate and deciding what must enter and what must stay out. This is why people who begin their mornings with fear, complaints, and anxiety unknowingly authorize negative patterns. They speak defeat before they take the first step. They speak confusion before they attempt the assignment. Words do not disappear. They hover, they shape, they attract, and they influence outcomes. What you say about your day becomes the atmosphere you walk in. You cannot speak weakness and expect strength. You cannot speak lack and expect abundance. You cannot speak failure and expect victory. The atmosphere you live in is created by the language you release. When you rise in the morning and intentionally speak life, you are not doing something religious. You are enforcing spiritual authority. When you say, "This day will favor me," you are not merely encouraging yourself. You are legislating in the spirit. You are placing a command on the unseen to align the seen. The atmosphere of a day is a battleground where forces contend for influence. Your voice is a weapon that determines which side prevails. If darkness speaks and you remain silent, you will live under its shadow. But when you speak, you shift the climate. You push back the storms before they gather. You secure victory before the battle begins. Some people enter a day unprepared, assuming it is just another routine cycle. But days are spiritual containers, carrying whatever you pour into them. A productive day is not accidental. A peaceful day is not accidental. A victorious day is not accidental. These things respond to declarations made in the place of intentionality. The day does not give you what you deserve. It gives you what you command. Even favor must be summoned. Even peace must be decreed. Even opportunities must be called forth. You frame the atmosphere that frames your results. When your voice rises early, you take charge of the spiritual traffic that attempts to influence your day. You silence negative whispers, break wrong expectations, and plant seeds of divine possibility. You decide the emotional climate, the spiritual climate, the mental climate, and the circumstantial climate of your Tuesday. You become the prophet of your own atmosphere. So speak with boldness. Speak with understanding. Speak with conviction. You are not just talking, you are creating. The day is waiting for your voice. A silent believer gives the enemy room to speak first. Silence in the realm of the spirit is not neutrality, it is an invitation. When you choose not to speak, you are not choosing peace, you are surrendering your authority. In the natural world, silence may signify wisdom, patience, or restraint, but in the spiritual world, silence is often misinterpreted as permission. The adversary thrives in environments where the believer is voiceless. He does not attack randomly. He fills the vacuum created by your silence. If you do not rise to speak over your day, your destiny, your atmosphere, and your expectations, something else will. Darkness is always looking for the first voice because the first voice sets the tone. The first voice becomes the ruling influence. The first voice determines the spiritual climate. So when you keep quiet, you unknowingly allow another voice, fear, doubt, negativity, confusion, or demonic manipulation to speak ahead of you. The enemy understands the power of words more than many believers do. He knows that words shape outcomes, words open doors, words close portals, words summon possibilities, and words activate cycles. So his strategy is simple: silence the believer long enough for him to speak first. Once his verdict has gone ahead, it becomes harder to reverse the atmosphere of the day. This is why many people wake up feeling overwhelmed, defeated, or discouraged before they even do anything. Something has already spoken into their morning. Something has already set the tone. The believer who rises without speaking rises into a prearranged environment, not one of his choosing, but one created by spiritual forces that take advantage of unspoken authority. In the realm of the spirit, silence is agreement. Not speaking means you accept whatever comes. Not declaring means you accept whatever is declared over you. Not rejecting means you allow whatever was projected to stand. Many battles believers face were never meant to exist. They were simply permitted by silence. When you stay quiet in moments when you should be commanding your morning, you give darkness a head start. You start the race behind the enemy's voice, and then you wonder why the day feels resistant. Your silence gives the enemy legal access to influence your emotions, your decisions, your relationships, your finances, your opportunities, and your progress. He enters where you refuse to guard with words. Your voice is not just for expression, it is for warfare. It is for legislation. It is for alignment. When you speak first, you shut the door before the enemy arrives. When you speak first, you fill the atmosphere with divine authority, leaving no room for opposing voices. When you speak first, you prevent negativity from becoming the default setting of your day. Consider how many people wake up and immediately complain, worry, or rehearse problems in their minds. Even that is a form of speech. If your own thoughts speak doubt before you speak faith, you have already surrendered the advantage. The enemy does not need to fight you directly. He simply needs you to remain quiet long enough for your fears, your past, or the environment to speak loudly. Speaking early is not a ritual. It is a spiritual strategy. It is how you claim ownership over your destiny. Your words build walls, create shields, plant seeds, and set boundaries. And when you speak intentionally, you block every unauthorized voice from determining the direction of your day. A believer who refuses to be silent is a believer difficult for the enemy to manipulate. You do not wait for trouble to arise before you speak. You speak to prevent trouble. You do not wait for confusion before you declare clarity. You speak so confusion never finds a foothold. You do not wait for fear before you declare strength. You speak so fear has no voice. When you use your voice early, you close the gap the enemy wants to fill. So rise with confidence. Speak before anything else speaks. Declare before anything else influences the atmosphere. When your voice goes ahead, the enemy's strategies collapse before they form. Your declarations shape your reality. Creation responds to prophetic speech. This principle is not poetic language. It is a spiritual law woven into the fabric of existence. From the beginning, the entire universe was formed by sound. Light came because a voice summoned it. Order came because chaos was confronted by words. Everything visible was commanded by something invisible. This means your speech is not just communication, it is creation. You do not only speak to express, your words build, frame, plant, uproot, and establish. What you consistently declare becomes the atmosphere around you, and eventually becomes the experience within you. Many people underestimate the weight of their own words. They speak casually, emotionally, carelessly, unaware that life listens, circumstances listen, the spiritual realm listens, and even their own mind listens. When you speak defeat long enough, your environment begins to align with defeat. When you speak fear long enough, your mind begins to expect danger even where none exists. When you speak limitation long enough, opportunities seem to elude you. But the opposite is also true. When you speak faith, your atmosphere becomes charged with possibility. When you speak favor, you begin to attract divine alignment. When you declare destiny, everything around you begins to shift to support what is spoken. Declarations are not empty statements. They are tools of spiritual engineering. They build structures in the unseen that eventually appear in the physical. Your life at this moment is not only the result of what you have done, it is also the result of what you have said. Your future will not only be shaped by decisions, it will be shaped by declarations. It is possible to pray and still cancel your prayer with your words. It is possible to expect breakthrough and yet sabotage it with negative declarations. The spirit realm recognizes consistent speech. When you speak truth, you enforce divine laws. When you speak doubt, you empower spiritual resistance. There is a reason the enemy fights your mouth. There is a reason life tries to overwhelm you into silence. There is a reason discouragement tries to mute your voice. Because once your declarations rise with conviction, something begins to shift. Your voice creates pathways where there were none. It summons help where there was lack. It calls forth strength where there was weakness. Declarations are not about denying reality. They are about enforcing a higher reality. You are not pretending that challenges don't exist. You are declaring that challenges don't have the final authority. Creation responds to sound because sound carries intent. When you speak with faith, your words carry spiritual weight. They are not mere sentences, they are weapons. They are commands. They are legislative decrees. You are not just talking, you are altering atmospheres. You are rewriting patterns. You are dismantling cycles. You are establishing order. You are releasing angels, silencing darkness, and activating destiny. The unseen realm has no choice but to obey consistent prophetic speech. Some people wait to see change before they speak. But in the kingdom, you speak to create the change. You don't speak because things look good. You speak until they become good. You don't speak because doors are open. You speak until doors open. You don't speak because the atmosphere is favorable. You speak until the atmosphere shifts. Faith speaks what it expects, not what it observes. Do not underestimate the power of your declarations. Every word is a seed, and every seed carries a future. Speak life until life rises. Speak strength until strength manifests. Speak alignment until alignment surrounds you. Your world moves in the direction of your words, and your reality follows the sound you release. You must deliberately command your morning to align with divine purpose. Mornings are not just the beginning of a day. They are spiritual gateways where instructions are issued, atmospheres are set, and outcomes are determined. Many people wake up and rush into their schedules without understanding that the first moments of their day are the most spiritually sensitive. Whatever controls your morning controls your day. Whatever enters your morning enters your environment. If you treat your morning casually, you will live a day shaped by chance instead of intention. But when you command your morning, you seize authority before anything else attempts to influence you. In the realm of the spirit, mornings are legislative sessions. They are the times when heaven listens for voices that understand authority. The forces that orchestrate confusion, delay, frustration, and distraction also seek to speak into your morning. If you don't rise early to declare alignment, these forces will rise early to declare chaos. The morning is a battleground of voices. You cannot afford to oversleep spiritually. Before the demands of life begin to pull at you, you must stand as a commander and issue decrees that shape the rest of your day. To command your morning is to consciously speak order into every area that may attempt to drift. You declare clarity over your mind so confusion cannot take root. You declare peace over your emotions so anxiety cannot intrude. You declare direction over your steps so error cannot mislead you. You declare favor over your engagement so resistance cannot hinder you. These are not empty recitations. They are authoritative pronouncements that set boundaries and open doors. When you command your morning, you are telling the day what it is allowed to deliver and what it must refuse. Life has a way of testing your resolve early. A message, a phone call, a conversation, or a sudden event can attempt to hijack the atmosphere of your day. But when your morning has been commanded, even unexpected situations bow to the climate you established. You become spiritually anchored, mentally settled, and emotionally fortified. A commanded morning is like a shield. Nothing enters your space without first passing through the declarations you released. Divine purpose requires intentionality. Purpose does not fulfill itself automatically. Destiny does not unfold by accident. Every day must be brought into alignment with heaven's design for your life. When you command your morning, you are essentially reminding the day, you will not contradict what God has spoken concerning me. You plant the seed of purpose early, ensuring that the decisions you make, the opportunities you encounter, and the people you meet all align with divine timing. Commanding your morning also trains your spirit to stay in leadership. Many people allow their emotions, their schedules, or their circumstances to lead them. But a spiritually mature person leads their day instead of being dragged by it. Speaking into your morning sharpens your focus, increases your sensitivity to direction, and strengthens your ability to discern what belongs in your life and what must be rejected. You silence the noise before the noise arises. You must also understand that commanding your morning releases angels assigned to your destiny. When you speak words of purpose, you activate heavenly assistance. Your declarations become instructions in the spirit, and divine forces begin to arrange situations in your favor. What would have been a setback becomes a testimony because your morning was properly commanded. If you do not speak purpose, distractions will steal your hours. If you do not declare victory, battles will rise unnecessarily. If you do not summon provision, lack may try to appear. If you do not enforce peace, chaos will attempt to enter. The morning is where you win before the day even begins. So rise with intention, stand with authority, speak with conviction, Command your morning until it aligns fully with the purpose of God for your life. When the morning is commanded, the day cannot rebel. Your authority is enforced through words. Favor, protection, and direction are spoken. Many people underestimate how deeply spiritual authority is connected to speech. Authority is not merely a feeling you carry inside. It is something activated, demonstrated, and enforced through what you declare. You cannot walk in dominion silently. You cannot legislate your destiny with closed lips. You cannot expect divine outcomes while speaking like a victim. Authority is voice-driven. Even in natural systems, authority is expressed through commands, decrees, instructions, and declarations. In the realm of the Spirit, this truth is magnified even more. Your words are not suggestions. They are instruments that enforce heaven's will in your life. Favor is not accidental. It is summoned. When you speak favor over your day, you are not being overly spiritual. You are activating a law. You are calling into your life the goodwill, acceptance, and kindness that God has ordained for you. There are places you cannot reach physically, but your words can reach them. There are decisions being made behind doors you cannot enter, but your declarations can intervene. Favor often looks supernatural because it is. It is not random luck. It is the response of heaven to spoken authority. When you declare, I walk in favor today, you are placing a spiritual demand that influences interactions, opens opportunities, and draws the right people into your path. Protection also responds to your words. Many dangers that should have touched believers never did. Not because they were lucky, but because their declarations created a shield. When you say, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, you are not reciting a verse. You are activating a law of exemption. You are instructing the forces of heaven to surround you. You are declaring that your steps, your home, your travels, your assignments, and your relationships are secured. Your words create a spiritual border that darkness cannot cross. Silence invites vulnerability, but declaration establishes defense. A believer who speaks protection lives under a covering that cannot be penetrated by ordinary battles. Direction is also enforced through speech. When you speak clarity into your day, you sharpen your spiritual senses. You align your mind with divine guidance. You silence the confusion that often tries to cloud decisions. Many people wander through days without clarity because they never declared direction. They hoped for clarity, but they never commanded it. When you say, my steps are ordered, you are not just comforting yourself. You are activating a divine GPS that positions you correctly. Your declarations become prophetic instructions that guide your interactions, decisions, and movements. You begin to notice the right opportunities and avoid the wrong ones because your words have aligned your path with heaven's intent. Authority that is not spoken is authority that is wasted. Authority that is not enforced is authority that is ignored. The spiritual realm does not respond to silence. It responds to sound backed by conviction. Even fear speaks. Even doubt speaks. Even anxiety speaks. The difference is that your declarations must be louder, clearer, and more consistent than whatever seeks to influence your day. When you speak with authority, everything around you must adjust. Circumstances bow, storms calm, doors open, injustice reverses, confusion dissolves, because your words carry the signature of the one who gave you authority. Your declarations are not just random statements. They are spiritual commands. When you speak favor, favor moves. When you speak protection, protection surrounds. When you speak direction, direction becomes your companion. You enforce what heaven has already decided. Nothing changes until you speak. Nothing aligns until you decree. Nothing settles until your voice rises with authority. Use your words as tools, weapons, and instruments of dominion. Speak boldly and watch your life reflect the authority you release. Tuesday must obey spiritual instruction and cannot choose its own results. Days do not have the power or the authority to decide outcomes on their own. They only manifest what is spoken into them. A day does not rise with predetermined success or predetermined failure. It rises neutral, waiting for the voice that will give it direction. If you do not instruct your Tuesday, it will drift, influenced by whatever forces speak first. But when you stand with spiritual authority and release intentional declarations, Tuesday becomes obligated to deliver what you have spoken. It cannot rebel. It cannot rewrite the script. It cannot respond to any other voice above the one spoken in faith. Many people live as though days have minds of their own, saying things like, I hope today treats me well, or let's see what the day brings. This mindset is passive and spiritually dangerous. The day is not a master, you are. The day is not sovereign, you are the one with the dominion mandate. When you wake up and remain silent, Tuesday becomes shaped by external influences, emotions, circumstances, attacks, unexpected pressures, and the whispers of the adversary. But when you speak, you seize control. You set boundaries. You give assignments. You establish outcomes. You restrict what is allowed and you permit what is needed. A day responds to three primary influences: the voice of God, the voice of darkness, and the voice of the believer. If you do not rise to speak, the day may default to negative patterns that do not reflect your destiny. But when you release spiritual instruction, you override every competing influence. You become the governing authority over your time. Tuesday must align with your prophetic decrees, because your words are not empty. They carry the weight of spiritual legislation. You are not wishing, you are commanding. You are not hoping, you are enforcing divine order. Think of Tuesday as a vessel waiting to be filled. If you fill it with fear, you will experience fear. If you fill it with expectation, you will experience possibility. If you fill it with declarations of favor, doors begin to respond. If you fill it with commands of peace, chaos loses its power. If you fill it with alignment, distractions cannot steal your focus. Days do not decide what they become. You decide what they become by the words you speak at the gate of the morning. You must approach each Tuesday like a spiritual project. You mold it through your confession. You build it through your declarations. You shape it through your instructions. Believers who understand this never leave their day unspoken for. They take responsibility for the climate, outcomes, and spiritual atmosphere of their hours. They know that time is a servant, not a master. When you release words of power, time adjusts, events adjust, circumstances adjust, even people adjust. Because Tuesday is not permitted to create its own narrative. Your voice supplies the narrative it must follow. This is why consistency matters. You cannot declare alignment one day and neglect it the next. Days recognize patterns. The spirit realm responds to consistency. When you consistently command your Tuesday, it becomes accustomed to obeying your voice. Your environment begins to reflect your authority. Your results begin to mirror your declarations. You begin to experience less chaos and more clarity, because you are no longer allowing random forces to determine the flow of your day. Even challenges that attempt to arise must bow to the voice that has gone ahead of them. When you speak into your Tuesday early, anything that does not align with your declarations becomes subject to divine interruption. Attacks lose their strength. Delays lose their grip. Misfortune dries up at the root. Why? Because Tuesday has already been instructed not to produce anything outside of what you have declared. Your words set the spiritual architecture that Tuesday must follow. It cannot choose its own results. It cannot negotiate its assignment. It must obey the voice of the one who has the authority to speak. When you declare with intention, Tuesday becomes a servant to your destiny, not a stumbling block in your path. Victory is established when you speak boldly and legislate the will of God over your day. Victory is never accidental. It is the result of intentional spiritual engagement. You do not stumble into triumph, you enforce it. You do not wait for the atmosphere to favor you. You command it to recognize the authority you carry. Bold speaking is not arrogance. It is alignment with the truth that you are a spiritual being with divine backing. When you open your mouth with confidence, heaven recognizes your voice, darkness retreats, and creation responds. A timid voice cannot establish victory. A silent voice cannot secure triumph. But a bold voice, one rooted in revelation, rearranges the day according to the plan of God. Victory begins with conviction. Before you speak, you must believe that your words carry power. Many believers speak, but they do so with uncertainty. Their lips move, but their spirits hesitate. Boldness is not volume, it is inner assurance. It is the confidence that when you speak, you are not speaking alone. You are echoing the intentions of heaven. You are releasing the will of God into a day that is waiting for direction. When your declarations align with divine purpose, they carry authority that cannot be resisted. This is how victory is established long before any battle appears. You legislate in the morning what you expect to see throughout the day. To legislate the will of God means to speak what God has already spoken. It means you enforce promises, not feelings. Feelings fluctuate, but truth stands firm. You cannot base your declarations on your emotions because emotions shift with circumstances. Instead, you root your speech in what God has declared concerning your life: peace, favor, preservation, wisdom, and advancement. When you legislate these realities, you are not begging, you are administering spiritual law. You are declaring that nothing contrary to divine intention is permitted to manifest. You are drawing a line between what heaven desires and what darkness attempts. Victory becomes the natural byproduct of enforcing the will of God. There are days when battles rise unexpectedly, when discouragement whispers, when situations challenge your faith. But if you have spoken boldly in the morning, you do not crumble under pressure. Why? Because victory has already been established. Your words have gone ahead of you like a shield. You are not trying to win. You are enforcing the victory already spoken. Even if a challenge appears, it cannot override a day that has been spiritually legislated. The atmosphere becomes too charged with divine authority for defeat to take root. Bold speaking also silences competing voices. The enemy speaks through fear, past failures, negative memories, or sudden circumstances. If you do not respond boldly, those voices will dictate your day. Victory requires that you drown out those voices with declarations that carry spiritual weight. When you say, "Today I walk in triumph," you are not merely encouraging yourself. You are shutting down every whisper that contradicts the will of God. You are refusing to let fear write your script. You are rejecting every interpretation of the day that does not align with heaven's blueprint. Legislating victory also means establishing boundaries. You decide what is allowed and what is forbidden. You forbid confusion. You forbid delay. You forbid misfortune. You forbid negativity. At the same time, you summon what belongs to you: clarity, advancement, open doors, peace, resources, and divine encounters. Victory is not just the absence of battle, it is the presence of divine order. Your declarations create this order. They carve out a pathway for divine intervention. They make room for angelic activity. They position you to recognize and seize opportunities. When you speak boldly, you become the custodian of your day. You stop reacting and start ruling. You stop surviving and start governing. Your day becomes a reflection of your declarations, not the circumstances around you. Victory is not a distant dream. It becomes the default environment of your life. And all of it begins with a bold voice that dares to legislate the will of God over every hour, every moment, and every assignment of the day.